LGBT, LGBTQ+, LGBTQIA, or as we will use it, the reclaimed term queer. Queer identities have become more and more of a hot topic in the present day, with rainbow crossings, awareness days, characters in medias, and laws for the rights of queer people. Within this queer topic, we want to highlight a specific related phenomenon, namely queer erasure. Within the topic of queer erasure, we want to focus on bisexual erasure as an example, as it is one of the more prominent forms of queer erasure. We define bisexuality as the potential to be attracted romantically and/or sexually to people of more than one gender, not necessarily at the same time, not necessarily in the same way, and not necessarily to the same degree, as defined by Engelberg. This means we use the term bisexuality as an umbrella term which encompasses all plurisexual identities, like pansexuality, polysexuality, and omnisexuality. Bisexual erasure is defined as the widespread social phenomenon of erasing bisexuality from any discussion in which it is relevant or is otherwise invoked, with or without being named, as defined by Corey. One of the main reasons for the existence of bisexual erasure is monosexism, the view that being attracted to only one gender, like with homo and heterosexuality, is the norm. Sexuality is generally seen by society as binary, either to men or to women. Often, monosexual identities are in favor of erasing bisexuality to strengthen the confidence in their own sexualities. All this, while there seem to be as many, or perhaps even more people that identify as bisexual, as there are that identify as homosexual. These people are, however, not as visible due to this type of queer erasure. Although we have all heard the term bisexual and met a few people who identify with it, bisexuality in general is not an accepted sexual orientation. A close look at the way we view bisexuality in mainstream culture makes it clear that we rely on the categories of heterosexual and homosexual to group people. Bisexuality is an often invisible identity. Heterosexual and homosexual communities contribute to bisexual erasure. Bisexual characters do exist in media, but their presence, especially in film and TV shows, is often overly stereotypical, which leads to a negative representation of their identity. Often they are portrayed as being non-monogamist, unfaithful, and inherently untrustworthy when it comes to relationships. Bisexual characters are oftentimes put in love triangles, for example. While a love triangle does function as a tool to highlight the character's sexuality to the audience, oftentimes it also implies the character to be confused about their identity or constantly changing between being heterosexual and homosexual. This further feeds into the stereotype that bisexuals are not able to or do not want to live with only one partner due to their sexuality. This greedy bisexual stereotype claims that bisexuals are incapable of monogamy. Additionally, there's a lack of terminology and self-identification. Failing to use LGBT terminology in a show with LGBT characters continues the cycle of invisibility. Naming a sexual identity gives the identity credibility, as said by Corey. Media does, however, also portray the coming out of queer characters. Their coming out is often met with parental disagreement and sometimes even antagonism. Portraying these reactions makes a bisexual character more relatable and provides validity to the struggle that bisexual individuals face when disclosing their sexual orientation to loved ones, as said by Corey. Examples include Bo from Lost Girl and Piper from Orange is the New Black. But exceptions do exist. Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one good example, and Callie from Grey's Anatomy is also generally seen as good bisexual representation. It did, however, take the latter 11 seasons before she was allowed to come out.
So I'm bisexual, so what? It's a thing.
One clear example of queer erasure in media, where a queer relationship was completely left out of a movie adaptation, was the relationship between women warriors Ayo and Aneka in Black Panther. In the comics, they have a clear lesbian relationship, while in the movie, they barely exist together. Another example from the Marvel Cinematic Universe would be Loki. His portrayal is the closest the MCU gets to representing queerness, but his sexuality is never clearly stated in any of the movies. His sexuality does get addressed in the spin-off series, although they do away with labels.
How about you? Must have been would-be princesses? Or perhaps another prince?
A bit of both.
This monosexist either-or positioning leads to numerous social, mental and psychological issues for people who identify as bisexual. Individuals will have difficulties in embracing their sexual orientation when they receive little to no social support. And since sexuality is generally seen as binary, bisexuals in relationships often blend into the sexual orientation dictated by their relationship rather than retaining their status as bisexuals. People who identify as bisexual are regularly accused of denying their true heterosexuality or homosexuality and either having fun trying out bisexuality if they are straight, or attempting to avoid homophobia and access heterosexual privilege if they are gay, as said by Schroth. Repeated negative-leaning portrayals of bisexual characters have a destructive effect on the sense of identity in bisexual people. This, in turn, has an effect on the everyday lives of bisexual people, as systemic biphobia and monosexism are promoted into real life. Media like TV shows and films present bisexual characters in an overwhelmingly negative light. Many representations contribute to the continued erasure of bisexual characters, or spurs the stereotype that bisexuals are greedy, sex-crazed individuals who refuse to pick a side. Together, they present bisexuals as individuals who cannot be trusted because they lie not only to others, but also to themselves. Cultivation theory and social identity theory explain that these damaging stereotypes, presented repeatedly in media with bisexual characters, damages the public opinion of bisexual identities. The media presents the notion that bisexuality is an invalid identity, and viewers are apt to accept and adopt that notion as truth. This leads viewers to believe the media presentation of bisexuality over reality. Television and media representation has the remarkable ability to transform social narrative and to make uncomfortable and taboo topics more approachable. Although we often preach for more visibility, we do need to watch out how we present queer characters, as not all visibility is good visibility.